Right. Hello. You can come on in and have a seat. Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. It's 1 minute early, so that's good enough. And that is recording. Yes. And if some people join us virtually, then they'll pop up here and we can talk to them that way. Hi, my name is Alex Smith. I am the band director here at Silver Creek High School. Jenny Jockum is back there.
I'm back here. Whoa, I'm really loud.
Yeah, you're real loud. Dang.
Sorry.
Here, let me turn you down a little bit. That scared me for a second. The voices in my head got suddenly much louder. Yeah. So Jenny Jockum is back there. She's the assistant director for the marching band. She's the director at the middle school, so most of you middle school band kids already know her quite well. Lindy Lockenauer is down here in the front. She is the guard coach, and the assistant guard coach, Patrick Reagan, is somewhere.
He'll be right up.
Okay. So the four of us obviously are working with the marching band most of the time, but we do have some other staff members who are here, especially over the summer. We have a bunch of percussion people, some other folks who come in to work with students, but the four of us, for the most part, are the ones you're going to see the most often, especially when the regular season starts. There's Patrick back in the back. So the purpose of this meeting tonight is we'll go as fast as we need to go, but I want to introduce the basic ideas of what marching band is, what your student is thinking about joining and signing up for, and then answering all the questions you could possibly have about marching band as an activity. So that's the goal. Oh, this is my son Xavier, by the way. He will be my assistant to the assistant director, I think, because he's going to be coming to a lot of marching band this year. So he's excited, aren't you? Good answer. Okay, so marching band. When I say marching band, by the way, I know there's a lot of folks here who are guard people as well. It's the same thing. I say marching band all the time. It includes the color guard as a part of that. The color guard are the folks who spin flags and stuff. All of that is the same thing. So guard and marching band is the same thing. You guys can put that stand down, by the way, in front of you. I know it's kind of fun to hide behind, but unless you want to hide behind it, you just push it down. Sorry, this is our impromptu COVID band room, so obviously it's a bit of a nightmare in here. So the marching band performs at home football games, and that's probably the place where you're most familiar with seeing us. But the marching band is also a competitive unit, so we travel to lots of other schools, compete against other marching bands, and it's a competitive thing, and especially in Indiana, marching band is a very competitive thing. Because of that, it has a lot of the same sort of elements that team sports have. You get the togetherness and the, group, esprit de corps kind of things that you would get from a sport. But it's not a sport in the same way. It's not really a sport at all. It's athletic, sure, because it's hard work and it's running around. It's competitive because we compete against other schools, but it's really more of an artistic thing because it is a combination of playing music and performing music and also dance and guard stuff, which is essentially dance. So it's kind of like a sport, and it's kind of like band class, and it's kind of like a dance class, but it's kind of all those things at the same time. So it is kind of a weird hybrid of a lot of things. So if you come from a background of playing sports yourself, or if you have other kids who have played sports, it kind of ends up being sort of like that because there's regular practices, there's a camp, we go to contests, you can come and cheer your kids on at a contest, like you get all that sort of stuff. But the way that the scoring works is all judged, and because there's judges involved, it's usually a nightmare of one kind or another because it's very subjective. The sport, the activity itself is incredibly subjective. So sometimes it's difficult to oh yeah, I saw my kid score a point in band. A thing that you will never ever say, right? That's just not how it works, okay? It's not what it is at all. And instead, especially now after everything that's happened, our focus is going to really de-emphasize the competitive aspect of this and really focus on the togetherness and the social side and the working towards a goal, really working hard together towards goal aspect of things, as opposed to the let's go win big shiny trophy things. We'll probably win some shiny trophies on the way, but I just care a lot less. When I was younger and dumber, I cared more. Now I care less. Now, that isn't to say that the competitive aspect isn't fun. It's super fun, and some kids really, really get into that as a thing. And that's great too. But it's really about putting the value in working together, setting goals together, and then putting on performances for people and, making people happy. And especially the people in the audiences who watch the shows feel happy, and the people who are performing the shows, your students, feel happy and proud of what they've accomplished. That's the big, big goal. So how do we do that? Well, a lot of work, a lot of work. If your student is not athletic or hasn't done a sport kind of thing, this might be the most physically demanding thing they ever do. Because even though it's not a sport, we do lots of push-ups and lots of sit-ups and we run a lot and we do things. Now, it's about on par with your average gym class, but maybe a little bit more sometimes. Well, why? Mostly for safety, actually. The physical strength and conditioning stuff is mostly for people to feel safe. Because if you do a whole bunch of this kind of stuff, if you do marching band and you're not physically ready, it's really, really hard and stressful. You're holding a big giant instrument and your average marching show is about a half mile of walking, marching really, but pretty fast while blowing out the entire time and trying to remember all this crazy stuff all at the same time. And it becomes very physically demanding. And if you're not strong enough to do it, it becomes a physical danger to kids to try to okay, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go, and they do it, and then they pass out at the end of it. And I've seen it happen so many times where kids who aren't physically strong enough or prepared enough to do marching band can really end up kind of hurting themselves. So to avoid all that stuff, we instead train them as we go. And they've already got a pretty good taste of that if they've been coming to the early camps. So you will get stronger. It's not the whole reason why we do it. It's a big part of it. What's up, buddy? Yeah, It's okay. So the physical aspect of it is a thing. If your student is in a band class, if they play an instrument, then they're about to get better at that instrument than they've ever gotten before. And the reason why is that we have a huge amount of specific training. We've got great teachers and a lot of time. And really the time is the biggest thing. We spend about 10 hours or so a week in practice. The 2 weeks of band camp is 40 hours a week. That's probably more time than they've ever practiced ever. And as a consequence of that, they get real good and really strong on their instrument. So even though marching band is its own extracurricular activity, it is, making them better musicians as well. If they decide to join Guard, and even if they're brand new to Guard, they're also about to get real good at that because they'll become very strong dancers and they can really become very talented performers through Guard stuff. Again, because of the great teaching and because of the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. Are people trying to get in?
Yes.
Okay.
How do I admit them?
I don't know. Why aren't they coming in? Let me go back there and
Nate
see.
was trying to get on at home and he said, let me in. He
Oh,
said,
geez,
saying it
okay.
needed.
Give me just a
And when-
second. I guess we've got.
When
some
I
virtual
try to get in,
folks.
it just said from my phone, it just says I'm not allowed.
Yeah, because you're using your school account. You have to use your personal account.
Okay.
Give me a second.
We'll hear him talk all the way through.
So, anyway, where's my ball? Turn myself down some more.
Hey, there we go. Yes, buddy.
Yay.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay.
We got some people.
Huh.
Okay, we're in.
Hi, virtual folks. I'm sorry that that had a little bit of an issue there. Let me get the camera adjusted for you so you can actually see me. Thanks for joining us virtually. There we go. Hey, now that I should be able to see me. Cool. All right. Hi, folks. If you're just joining us, sorry about that. My name's Alex Smith. I'm the band director. And I was just going through the very basic stuff of marching band. You haven't missed any major information yet, so don't worry. And there will be a recording of this available on the band website afterwards. So if you want to see the simple stuff that I went over, you can go back and watch it. But you didn't miss anything, I promise. Can you guys hear me okay? Even just thumbs up is fine.
We can hear you.
Perfect. All right. So, like I said, physically, it's very demanding, but from a musician and performer standpoint, you get really, really strong as well. And then obviously the social aspects. Marching band is, this is where people meet friends and people that they stay in contact with for the rest of their life. And that's an easy thing to just like casually say, but it's 100% true. We have so many of our former Silver Creek Band students who come back to watch the band. Some of them come back to teach the band, and they stay in contact with these kids for a long, long time, and it means a lot to them. And their time in this organization tends to mean a lot to them. At this point, we've got 3 married couples from the Silver Creek Band that I can think of just in the last 6 years that I've been here, 7 years that I've been here. 8 years? I don't know. 2014, 7. Yeah, and
This is
so,
7.
you know, things like that happen, and that doesn't usually happen on the football team. Anyway, had to think about that joke. So maybe it does, I don't know. But that kind of stuff is rare and special, and is kind of different just to what the marching band can offer. So it's a lot of things, and it's a big thing. And it's sometimes hard to know exactly what you're getting into. Even if I stand here and try to describe it to you, it's difficult to get like the big picture until you've just done it, until you've gone through it. But the big thing I want to impress on you, especially you students who are here, is that it's a lot of hard work. And sometimes you're going to want to be like, yep, I'm so done with this. I'm sweaty and disgusting, and I hurt, and I have homework, and this is not great. But okay, buddy, I'll get you a drink in a second. The final thing, though, the thing that we work so hard to make happen is that we pay that off. I've said this for a long time, that band is the ultimate kind of fix for what a lot of people complain about with current society and kids. I'm not one of these people. I think all kids are wonderful. I don't think kids are any different than they've ever been. But a lot of times parents are like, well, their phones and video games have made them like all about instant gratification. Well, marching band, the exact opposite of instant gratification. Because especially when you're brand new to this, you have no idea what your even payoff is going to be until the very end. No idea at all. Hi folks, welcome. So if you are worried about that as a thing for your student, this is the exact opposite, because there is so much investment in time and work on behalf of your student, and they really won't get that payoff until the very end of the process. But we, as staff members, work incredibly hard to make sure that that payoff actually does happen. If there's other people who are trying to get in on my computer, you can let them in. Okay, so let's talk about scheduling stuff, because that's always a big question. If you have your phone with you, if you want to go onto the band website, it's scband.net. It's your new favorite thing ever.
That's a final question.
It is a question on the final every year. And every year somebody has to come up with some silly answer for it. Whatever. I don't understand kids sometimes. So scband.net is the band website. I maintain it, and it takes some time. But the most important function of this is the calendar. So up at the top, you see there's a thing that says calendar. If you click on that, that takes you to the band master calendar, which is always updated, and as soon as something changes, it changes there. On the bottom right-hand side, or if you're on Android, I think it's on the bottom right. I don't know about Apple's. I don't understand. But there's a little plus button for you to add the band calendar to your family calendar. And if you do that on your calendar, if you use Gmail or iCal or whatever, ta-da, now you have the band calendar too. And it auto-updates at all times. So if something changes, it changes there on your phone as well. So on that calendar, you can find our full, complete schedule for the entire season with one omission, well, 1.5 omissions. Sellersburg celebrates, mostly because I don't know if they're going to do it or not. I imagine they will. I don't know why they wouldn't at this point. But there's usually a parade, and I think I'm under some kind of contract to march that parade for Sellersburg celebrates. I don't know. I just show up and they're there. So I assume that we'll be doing that parade again, but I know when it should be, but it hasn't officially happened yet, so I don't know. I know, buddy. I'll get you a water in a second. The other thing I'm not 100% sure yet, and we're still working out, is the guard dates for summer things, and maybe that's changed. I don't know. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But as soon as the guard dates for the summer are finalized, they'll be updated on there as well. That'll be June and July maybe, I don't know, something like that. Otherwise, the next big thing that's on the calendar is in July, the last 2 weeks in July, and that is band camp. Now, band camp is actually here at school. We don't go away for band camp, we stay here. And it's just a part of the thing. It's when we actually get most of the teaching done. It's 8 to 4:30. Usually we feed the students. We're still trying to work out exactly what that's going to look like this year. There's a lot of uncertainty, obviously, around all of the feeding of kids, and I'm trying to get some answers from the district about that. As soon as I have those answers, I'll make sure that you have them as well. But the band camp time is really important, especially if you're new to the activity, because that's when we do like pretty much all of the learning. So is it 100% necessary to be there? Basically, yeah. If you have a conflict or something on a day, it's not really a problem. But if you're going to be out for those entire 2 weeks, you really shouldn't join marching band this year. And I don't say that to be mean. It's not a me keeping you out. It's you're going to have a bad time. Because your kid's going to come into a thing they've never done before, and everybody else knows what they're doing except for your student. And that usually results in instant burnout. And like, oh, I don't feel like I fit in. Well, you kind of missed like the time when people learn how to fit in and where to fit in and how it all works. And so it's not me keeping the student from doing it. It's you should be there in order to make sure that you kind of understand how it works. So band camp itself is, like I said, here at school. Mostly it's outside. Mostly it's on the parking lot outside on Blacktop. And it's July in southern Indiana. So, it's hot. Why Blacktop? Because that's actually the easiest place to learn marching band stuff. And obviously here at Silver Creek, we're lucky that we hopefully will be building new things very, very soon. But they ain't built yet, and we don't have a lot of space right now. So our practice facility for marching band is specifically going to be in the parking lot back behind the school, kind of between the school and the baseball field. So, and I will, buddy. I need to finish talking, okay? It'll be soon. Sorry, folks. Obviously, we try to do our best to take care of kids in the weather. We do have pop-up tents and we provide water to a degree, but again, I don't know exactly how the COVID things are going to interact with water rules. That's a big uncertainty as well. Basically, your student needs to have a big old giant water jug with them all the time, and they need to be hydrating like crazy. If your student is one of those kind of kids who has spent more time on a couch than outside, time to acclimate. Make them mow the grass every day, or something. Get them out there, because if they are spending their entire 2 months of summer in the air conditioning, and then they go straight into marching band, oh boy, that first day is going to be bad. So please. Yes?
I would also encourage
Let's turn you up.
that at least 2 to 3 days before marching band camp starts, that students really start drinking water. You can't wait until you're hot and thirsty. By then, it's too late. You're already dehydrated. So it takes 2 or 3 days to really get that into your body to be hydrated for the activity. So 2 to 3 days before, less soft drinks, more water, and then of course we drink throughout practice. Gatorades are good after practice to replenish and such. But that's a big thing that we see every year is first day of practice, a lot of people not feeling good because they haven't started drinking water. Well, I've been drinking water all morning, well, it's too late. So.
We talk about practice schedules. I'll be back.
Yes. I think I'm still really loud.
You shouldn't be. I turned you down a little bit.
Am I still too loud? I'm still too loud.
Okay, so again, hydrate. The biggest number one thing if a student starts not feeling good from being overheated is almost always because they weren't drinking water beforehand. The other big one is not eating breakfast or eating like breakfast in the car on the way to practice. Then breakfast comes back and we don't want to do that. So being smart and being healthy with some choices there is a definite good thing for preparation. Our practice schedule during this summer, I believe, did Mr. Smith get to the point? I was working on some stuff. So we have our camps, like he said, here at school for 2 weeks before school starts, just during the day on the weekdays. Generally speaking, we spend as much of that time outside as we can, depending on the weather and the temperature and such. I'm back on. Hello?
Hello. That's a little better. Still loud.
Otherwise, they can't hear you.
Oh, yeah, okay. Hello. So anyway, we spend as much time outside as we can. Again, weather and temperatures allowing. So most days in July, that equates to us being outside, doing marching fundamentals and things like that until lunchtime. And then we come in for lunch, and then in the afternoon, in the heat of the day, then we stay inside, and that's when we work on music and stuff like that.
If we can. We still don't 100% know that too, but there's the rules
That's the
about,
usual plan.
right. Usually the
It
playing
ain't
instruments
normal
indoor thing is
here.
still a little up in the air in Indiana, so we'll wait and see how, that's a terrible joke. We'll see how that works itself out. So after the band camp kind of experience, those 2 weeks, your kids will know a huge amount of marching band itself and will be about 80% of the way to learning everything that they're going to need, musically and drill and everything, and choreography, all the stuff. So it is an important time. But we do have weekly practices to learn more things and to get even better at it. Those weekly practices are also on the calendar. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is the practice schedule. After school until 5:30 on Tuesday, Thursday. After school till 5 on Friday. It's a lot of practices. And it's a lot of practices, and it's a lot of practices, and it's a lot of practices. So it's just like a sport. If you make the commitment, a part of what comes along with that is the time management skills to learn how to do it, right? So if you have a student who is in high school right now, they kind of understand how the whole high school thing works, right? And they can understand how to balance their time. If you have a student who's currently in middle school, you might want to make sure you have a conversation with them about their class load and an extracurricular activity like this that does demand that extra time. It's a real skill. It also happens to be a very realistic life skill that they're going to need at some point in the future. And this is one of the sort of hidden benefits of doing an activity like marching band, is that it sort of forces kids to get good at time management. Now, does that mean that kids usually have bad grades? No, usually the band has like the best grades, usually. Most of the kids who are in the band are pretty high achieving and do very, very well. Now, is that everybody? No, but that's just how it is for all activities. Generally speaking though, band kids are still incredibly successful because they have to learn those time management skills in school. So the marching band practices themselves, that includes Friday. That's a new thing for us, having practices on Friday. And a big part of that is to get us ready for football games, which are on Friday. On the nights where we don't have, or when we do have a football game, we don't have practice. So basically, kids go home on the bus, they come back before the game. And we perform at the game. Game's over at 9 o'clock-ish, we go home. 9 o'clock-ish, because it's a football game, it's over when it's over. And I can't control that, obviously. We perform at halftime. And then we play in the stands, pep band style stuff. That's a little turtle, isn't it? Yes. He's your entertainment. I hope you enjoy it. So in addition to the football games and practices, there's also contests. I'm still not 100% sure which contests we're going to go to yet because some of them are still, up in the air in terms of if they're happening or not, or if they're moving their dates around. But I have put on the calendar contest weekend 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. Importantly, there is a contest the Saturday before fall break, but not a contest the Saturday of fall break.
At the end of fall break.
At the end of fall break.
So the Saturday that starts fall break, there is a competition, but the Saturday at the end of fall break, there is not.
Right. And it'll say that way. I'm not going to add one that's that way purposefully. And if I could, I would try to get rid of both of those Saturdays, but I can't for a bunch of reasons. Yes, there's only 1 week of fall break now. Silver Creek changed their schedule. It used to be 2 weeks of fall break. For whatever reason, it's just one now. So a single week of fall break, that's out of our control.
So we do have that competition on the Saturday that begins fall break, but then that's it. The rest of fall break is off. There are no practices.
Correct.
And there is not a competition at the end. So we do have that week of fall break off.
Now, our regular contests are basically like the regular season for a sports team. We will compete against lots of schools. Some of them will be our size. Some of them won't be our size. Yeah, it's just kind of all over the place. There is a postseason of sorts for marching band, and it starts with regionals, which is the week after spring or after fall break, and continues with semi-state and state. State is held at Lucas Oil on the Big O field there, which is a big wild thing. And Silver Creek has not yet made it to state finals. We have made it to semi-state 3 times. So that's a thing that has happened. But that's a new thing for us. We've made that 3 times, and that's just been in the last 4 years that we've made it 3 times. So that's even for us a big step.
So for those new to the marching band world, regionals for us is equivalent to sectionals for sports teams. That's what determines whether we go on. So that's our big moment on determining the remainder of our season.
Which is really why we have to have that contest week before we go for fall break. So if we don't make it out of regionals, which does happen, then that's the end of our season. If we do, then we go on to semi-state. If we make it out of semi-state, we march at Lucas Oil, which is an amazing experience. So we'd love to have that happen sometime in the future. So that is basically what the marching season looks like. It does potentially stretch until November, depending on how if we make it to state or not. And this ride just got here. So I think now is the best time to go to questions, unless I forgot something glaring.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Drink more water.
drink more water. Yes.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
I have a much older daughter who did guard off in high school when we lived up north. So, is there a winter guard also here?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the season as far as color guard goes in terms of being with your band?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question.
So the
Yeah, actually,
question is, for
you
those
wanna
of you
answer
at
this?
home,
Yeah, so,
for those of you
You'll
at
have to
home,
answer it in the mic.
the question was about Winter Guard, if we have a Winter Guard program, and what the season is for Color Guard within the marching band and Winter Guard.
Sorry. Okay. So first of all, typically we, I can't say require, strongly encourage kids to do marching band, color guard first before they come to Winter Guard. Winter Guard is a much higher level skill set. They need beginnings that happen in marching band to be successful in Winter Guard. So I would recommend they do this first. If Winter Guard is something that they're interested in. They're gonna get a better beginning skill set. They're gonna feel more successful in marching band color guard than if they try to start out in Winter Guard right out of the gate. Because it's all we do, there's no band, there's no other aspect to it. It's much more intense, and we practice more than what this schedule is for Winter Guard. So, if there are people out there who think their kids wanna be in Winter Guard, they really should be in marching band, color guard first to get that initial skill set so that they can be successful in the Winter Guard season. Like he was just talking about with not really knowing exactly how long our season goes, because we're week by week at the end of the season. If we make it out of regional, we have another week. If we go that week, and we do well, we have another week, right? So at the latest, the first week in November is gonna be our last competition for marching band. So typically we have about a 2-week break, and then right before Thanksgiving we have auditions for Winter Guard. We often, in years past, I've always done an audition process for Winter Guard, whereas for marching band this year it's just, hey, you want to be in color guard? Show up, we'll teach you. Winter Guard's a little different. We typically do have auditions for that. I'll have to see what the interest is when we get to that point as to if we're going to do that again. It may be a situation where we take everybody, but if 30 kids show up, we can't possibly take everybody. The rehearsal space that we have is less than half of a gymnasium. And so if there are still COVID restrictions going on at that time, that will be part of the process as well, because we have to keep the kids safe. So I just want to caution that. That's another reason for them to do color guard first with the marching band, to have more skills to come into auditions with when that time comes. That season, though, to answer your question, typically runs through the last week of November through to March. So it's about 4 months. We have a similar rehearsal schedule, but I can't speak to exactly what it will be because I don't know yet. I won't know until we get closer as to what kind of gym space we're going to be able to get. But it is similar. It's usually probably a little more in terms of hours. Like we go later than what we're going for marching band this year. We do, I know in years past, depending on what class we go into, there are just a lot of up in the airs, we do often have rehearsal and have a contest around spring break. And so if people have big plans for spring break, that may knock them out of, being able to be in Winter Guard. We usually only have, I think, 4 or 5 competitions. They're kind of spaced out more so than for marching band. And so, yeah, if you can't be at finals, it kind of takes you out for the season. Like, it's not like marching band, where we go by the week. We know when our last show is with Winter Guard. We know our last show is on, let's say March 25th or whatever. It's a different kind of situation. So if people are going to miss that whole last week, well, then they're missing 1/5 of the whole season, really, right? Like what we're ultimately working up to do, which is to go compete at finals. So it'll be really important that they are here for that. I haven't seen the school schedule to know when spring break is scheduled next year yet.
It's
But-
still 2 weeks.
It's still 2 weeks.
I
Okay.
think it's the last 2 weeks.
I'm going to guess that means we probably will have rehearsals and a contest halfway through spring break. So they might get 1 week of their spring break off, and the other week we would have things that are probably going on. So, did that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, but I also had a question about their practices in general, because again, for my oldest day guard, she did marching band and winter guard
Mhm.
for years. But, guard, their schedule was very intense for practices. So in addition to practicing with the band, they also had additional practices specifically for the guard, to better prepare them. So is that the way you guys work here, or is there practice schedule going to be for the guard, or the band practice schedule?
Well, in years past, we had a sectional day that was just our section, and so other sections had that too. It wasn't just the color guard. I believe this year, our kind of consensus was to not have that in lieu of the Friday. So what that will mean is there will be more time during those together times where we take the guard out and we go do something else. Now, like he said, we are still figuring out what we're probably gonna need to do something at the end of June. Because the thing is with guard, okay, everybody that's gonna be in band at least knows how to play their horn. We have people who don't know how to hold a flag yet, right? So we need some basic days before we even get to band camp. Like band camp day 1 can't be here's how you hold your flag. We've got to be ahead of that, or we're gonna spend the whole season catching up to where the band already is. Does that make sense? Because even our 7th grade friends have been playing for 2 years. So they're ahead of us. So as soon as I get that figured out, you guys will know. My hope is by next week. So you'll know that. So those would be extra, right? Those would be days that are not yet on the calendar that would be different from what we're typically doing. My intent is not to have to do any more of that. The only thing I can think of is if we were to get a situation like way late in the season where we absolutely had to have an extra rehearsal, there could be like a week where we have to do that. My intent is not to do that every week. Yeah. There have been years in the past where we did. This isn't going to be one of those because we are rebuilding from like scratch up basically. So, does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
The after-school practices,
Huh?
may interfere with extracurricular activities.
Sure.
This is Skylar's mom, she was talking about
I
dance and
know
stuff.
Skylar has talked to you all about
Yeah.
that.
Right.
That's-
Dance stuff is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's how it goes. We want our students to be able to do as much as they want to do, right? And traditionally, and this is especially true with dance stuff, you will find that the conflict will not come from me.
Okay. Well, it won't be an issue.
Okay.
On their end either. but-
Great, then I'm happy to play ball.
There's gonna have to be a balance.
We've had many
Correct,
dancers
yes.
who have been able to be fully a part of marching band and fully a part of their, in their
We are
dance.
willing to compromise.
Absolutely.
We can give and take.
Literally a day.
Yeah.
Correct.
Stuff like that happens, and that's like, it's hard to schedule dentist appointments, right? And sometimes your kids gotta go to the dentist, and that's fine, it's a thing. It's kind of similar, if it's a reoccurring thing, it's fine.
Just make sure we know about it.
Yeah.
When you fill out the form to sign up, if you know there's gonna be those kind of conflicts, put that on there so we can plan accordingly. If a dentist appointment, it's like, oh, I had to make this dentist appointment, there's this thing going on next week, shoot us an email. So again, just so we know to plan on it in case that were to make a difference to what the rehearsal plans are. Because sometimes it really can, one or two kids can make a difference for what our plan is to make the most efficient use of time.
And once we know her schedule, dance schedule too, it will be easier.
Right. Communication is key. When there's conflicts, communicate. The problems usually come when it is always missing band and you're missing. We just have to be careful to make sure you don't that the student doesn't miss so much that they get discouraged when trying to catch up. And we can certainly work to help balance that as long as we know what's going on and we can help work through those and, come up with a compromise. So, again, communication is key.
Yep.
She has no trouble communicating.
We've witnessed. To the
Which is
benefit.
great.
Yeah, and she does.
I
She speaks
highly
very, very
appreciate
well.
it and love the communication.
Indeed. Did that answer your questions? Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think I heard it. Is the part going to the camp with band?
Yes, so yes, we talked about this at the very beginning, and that's okay. Marching band, when I say marching band, that includes everything. That's all the instrumentalists, that's the percussionists, and that's the color guard as well. So the only time that's really different is when we do the winter season, where there is a separate winter guard. That is its own thing, which we're in charge of too, but that's its own separate thing.
Right, and that's a separate sign up and a separate commitment.
Yeah.
Just because you're in marching band color guard does not commit you to the winter season and vice versa. They are two separate events and two separate extracurricular activities. The marching band has three components. It has the winds, which are the instrumentalists, the percussion, and the color guard. Color guard is a part of the marching band. So anything the marching band does, that includes color guard because they are a very important member of the marching band as a whole.
They're exactly 1/3 of the importance.
Right.
So, yeah. So very often I just refer to the whole thing as marching band because I'm lazy. At least in terms of stuff like that. Okay. Other questions? Virtual friends, you're welcome to chime in here with questions too. We can hear you if you unmute.
Do you guys have indoor percussion, like after the season's over?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in years past, we have offered indoor drumline. It's mostly, especially here at Silver Creek, and I know you folks are coming into the school. We're space limited right now, and the main problem that we have with running our indoor and winter programs is where do we have them? Gym time at this school in the winter is extremely limited, which is why our color guard basically has to do their stuff in a tiny little half gym over at the educational center, which is kind of falling down. And at this point, it's not even a daycare. I think it's just a gym at this point because they've moved the daycare out of there. So I think it's just a gym. So anyway, it is difficult for us to host a lot of those things. Now, if there's a huge amount of interest in winter percussion, which sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, it's definitely a thing that we can offer. We have the staff for it, and they a lot of times want to do it. And in the future, we would love to do it. We have dedicated space for it. So this year is a maybe, but it kind of depends on the interest and depends on the space requirements. In the future, absolutely, we want to be able to hold and host winter percussion stuff. Yes?
What's the average cost?
Yeah, it's not an average cost, it's exactly the cost. So, $350, which is everything. That there's no extra, there's no uniform purchases, you don't buy the band uniforms.
There's not hidden surprise extra fees
Nope.
for guard.
Nope.
I know some schools have done that.
Nope. There are some things, so especially for guard kids, makeup, especially their own makeup, it's their makeup, right? But we do say, you gotta have some makeup stuff.
Because
Sometimes,
that gets gross to share.
yeah, sometimes there's some undergarments that are required, just they're specialized for that. Obviously, that's on the kids. We have in years past purchased shoes. Sometimes we subsidize the cost of special dance shoes for the guard. Those are also your kids, right? So when it comes to guard stuff, there are sometimes things that need to be purchased, but those are then yours. But that's pretty limited, and you'll know it's coming. There won't be any surprises about it.
And we really try to make sure that's limited.
Yeah, we don't go crazy with this.
Do we do fundraising at all?
Yes, so yeah, and a lot of the limitation on fundraisers right now is put on us by the district because there's basically no fundraisers allowed right now at the district level. That's starting to open back up and changing a little bit, obviously as things get better. But right now, we don't have any that we can offer because we're not allowed to. So, however, in the future, when we can, absolutely. Traditionally, we have lots of fundraisers that we run. And as soon as we can, we will obviously offer those to the students for them to be able to raise funds for this. So, absolutely, that's the next thing. So, $350, the first $50 is due the first day of band camp. Then $150, then basically throughout the season. And traditionally, I've tried to set dates for those 150s. Traditionally, it ends up being kind of a soft date anyway. What I say is we need to make sure that we have a $150 installment and another $150 installment basically once a month, right? And I keep track of all that stuff, and when you're paid in full, you'll get a notice that says you're paid in full. So it's $350 for the entire thing. Now, what does that money go towards? Staffing is the biggest thing, okay? We get $6,000 to pay for all of our staff from the school, which is ludicrous. It doesn't include me. That's for the guard staff, that's for the assistant directors, that's for the percussion staff. Yeah. So not a lot. So obviously most of that money to get great people like what we have teaching with us, I can't pay them 15 or 20 cents an hour, which is what that would effectively be. I can't do that, right? So we have to pay them more, and in order to do that, we have to charge the students more in order to pay for the teaching. That's just, there's no way around it, and that is the biggest expense. The second biggest expense is transportation. $27 an hour per bus, no matter where we go, what we do. If the bus is sitting in the parking lot, $27 an hour. If it's going up 65, $27 an hour. 80 kids. 3 buses, maybe? 2 buses? I don't know. COVID restrictions haven't let me know. It could cost us $1,000 to go to Floyd Central. That's the thing. So, the transportation aspect of it is a big expense. We also don't own a truck. In order to get all of our stuff anywhere, we have to rent a truck. We got to rent a rider. And that's a big part of it. So just to get the band to a place is very, very expensive. And the school subsidizes 0 of that. We pay 100% of the costs associated with the transportation. And that's not going to change anytime soon, unfortunately, as much as I wish it would. So those are your 2 biggest expenses. After that, you get into the show design stuff. Basically, the people who write the music for us, write the drill, the percussion stuff, things like that. Not huge expenses, but significant expenses. And then down the line, you're talking about instrument repair, small equipment purchases, stuff like that. We don't usually buy
Entry fees, the competitions.
entry fees, competitions, yeah. Basically, everything is a pretty open book in terms of the way I run it. We are not a 501c3. Everything runs through the school. We run everything through an ECA account. I cannot write a check. I can request and get denied, but I cannot write a check. Basically, your money goes into our account in the school, and if you have a question about it, you can ask. You can just go and say, hey, I want to see this account.
You can ask us, you can ask the office,
Yeah,
but it's,
absolutely.
it's all very, very, tracked in triplicate.
Yeah. And that is, by the way, by design. I run it through the school because it's safer, honestly. There's less opportunity for things to be abused, and that's the way I want it to be.
Or mistakes to be made.
Or mistakes to be made, because God knows I can make those. Other questions? Yes?
My daughter would be important. She needs special dance classes or anything?
Nope. Nope. We take all comers, regardless of their experience level.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I know you don't know for sure because of COVID what the schedule will be like this fall, but on average, how many competitions do you typically do in a regular schedule?
That's a great question. So traditionally speaking, we do 5 regular contests, sometimes 6, and then our postseason stuff, which is usually regionals and the last 3 years semi-state. That's
And
traditional.
where earlier he was talking about the calendar, the Google Calendar that's on the band website, all of the competition weekends are already listed there. So you can go there and it starts on September 11th is the first competition. And it says contest week 1, contest week 2, and so on and so forth. So every day that there could possibly be a contest is already listed on the calendar. So
And as I
you
get
have
those
that
dates,
for planning purposes.
I'll add the information about where we're going, what the times are, blah, 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 blah. So, and that's where I post all that stuff. Those of you who have had me as a teacher for your kid, you've already noticed that I send egregious numbers of emails. Prepare for more, because that's how I update people. Everything will be updated on the calendar, but then just information dump. You'll usually get more information than you want. That's how it usually
The
goes.
band Facebook page, if you do Facebook, the Facebook page Silver Creek Band is also a great place to get that information as well. It's on when emails go out, they are also posted on that Facebook page as well.
And in the band website, which will usually have the most recent giant email,
Yeah.
also there is a link for you to read as well. So I try to communicate as clearly as I can through as many avenues as feasible. So that information will be available when I can make it available. It should be fairly soon. I am getting more contest things, but the ones that we usually go to that are kind of close and therefore don't cost a huge amount of money, I haven't heard a lot of stuff about yet. So I'm waiting to hear from, Paoli and Floyd and maybe Salem. Who knows what Salem's going to be doing? So, stuff.
And they're all waiting because again, what their restrictions are going to be, so
Other
we're all
questions?
stuck in limbo.
I have one more.
Absolutely.
So do you guys have like a parent group that helps do things?
Yes, oh boy, do we. So, as you can imagine, we do need some parent help. When you fill out the form, there's a thing on there specifically for you to tell us what you can help us with. And the options are basically loading crew, which loading crew are the parents who help us put all of our stuff in a truck, and it's real important.
If you're real good at Tetris, we want you to help. Tetris masters are the best loading crew people.
We need help always with uniform fitting. Fitting our
Yes.
uniforms to students is a big deal, and they're designed to be adjustable
To an extent.
ish. So, but then there's always going to be alterations that need to be made. So if you're handy in terms of sewing stuff, we can always use a little bit of help with that. And then just really helping to fit kids is a fairly significant time.
That's the biggest part with the uniforms is just the time for fitting, because that has to be done when the kids are here.
Right.
We try to do that usually about that second week of band camp to get the bulk of that done. And then after that, and I'll be doing the bulk of the communication for people who are willing to help with uniforms. So getting that fitting and then maintaining and making sure they're washed and stuff, which there's some new ways we can get that done this year, which will alleviate a lot of stuff. But yeah, that's the bulk of the uniform help.
We have washing machines on site now, which will be nice. So we'll be able to use those things on site. So that's going to make things a lot easier.
Big industrial ones.
We also have our largest fundraiser of the year is coming back, thankfully, which is our craft show in December, where we traditionally make pretty decent money and is a huge time expenditure, and we absolutely have to have parents in order to help us make that happen. So that's one of the options to sign up. I took prop building off because plywood costs too much money, good Lord. And so we're not gonna be building props or anything like that, but I think there was another one on there. I don't remember what it is, but when you fill out the form, you'll see that
Food,
there's,
band camp
food,
food.
that's it, band camp food.
Serving
which is
lunch
a big
during
deal
band camp.
too. So basically we ask that all the parents at least try to do one thing to help support the band and to try to keep costs as low as they can be. It also has kind of a side benefit here that, especially if you sign up for loading crew or the things that like help us move things around, you get to basically be on field with your kid while they're doing stuff, which is pretty cool. And it's quite a bit different than a lot of other activities where you have to sit in the stands. You can actually kind of be a part of it. And we invariably always have parents who make lots of friends with all the other parents, and they become their own kind of social group of sorts. So that is an unintended benefit. Other questions? Virtual folks, any other questions?
How is auditioning gonna work, percussion wise?
Sure. So auditioning, so we've kind of sort of already done a bit of the auditioning, not 100%. And I think your mother and I have had a conversation about this as well. So essentially, the auditioning process is going to be done during the first percussion camp, which if you look on the calendar, I think is June the 5th. That's when we're really going to make sure that everybody gets lined out into their stuff. We can start fitting harnesses and things. And a lot of that's going to be based on the instrumentation that we have and basically what kind of experience levels people have. We are not, because of the way COVID has interacted with things, we are not going to run formal auditions this year. And that's mostly because we didn't have a marching season last year. So most of our students are coming in at about the same level. And it's more of a placing than it is an audition. We're trying to make sure that we get the right people in the right place so that they're going to feel like they can grow and be successful, but we're also not going to put somebody in over their head. So absolutely, definitely look at that calendar. So that first percussion date.
June 3rd, or
June-
June 5th.
June 5th, noon to 3. And that's when a lot of that stuff is going to get going. That's when the material, the warm-up packets and all that stuff will get going and out to you. And you can meet all the staff, the percussion staff.
Are the auditions only for drumline or are they specific to pit? Because I want to play marimba.
Sure. It's the same process for the entire thing. So the pit is included in our percussion section, obviously. So we march a full drum line, but we have a full pit section as well. And it works the same way. We place, we don't audition this year. So if you have a desire to play marimba, I got good news for you. I got a desire for a good marimba player.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Great.
We've got a couple of really great pit players, some really, really talented musicians, but there's always room for more.
With some potential great marimba parts too.
Indeed, yeah, actually, the closer's got some pretty amazing parts in it for stuff. Other questions? Yes.
During band camp,
Uh-huh.
are there any days where food is provided?
Yes, well, yes, I don't know.
We'll go back to my most absolute hated phrase. In a normal year,
We always provide lunch. But this year, I'm trying to get people to give me a straight answer. And so far, everybody's like, well, blah, 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 blah. They just
so
won't
like,
say.
we're not thinking about that yet.
But we are. So traditionally, we provide lunch. It's rolled into the cost, doesn't cost anything extra, right? So if we can, we absolutely will. The question is, can we?
If they will allow us, yeah.
And if we can't, I'm still working on some alternatives, and I frankly don't know enough to be able to give you even a kind of answer right now. And a lot of that has to do with they can't make up their mind what they're going to do next year. And really, because our band camp is so close to next year, I think they're trying to do the same thing they're going to do next year with us, but they just can't tell us what that is. I know that's very frustrating and annoying for planning purposes. Trust me, I am annoyed by it too.
I get it, if the guidance,
But if we can, we absolutely will. And we usually have pretty amazing, fantastic lunches.
Yeah, we really do. Yes.
And since I want to go back to what you were talking about money, is their first like $50 installment, is it due when they sign up? Or
No, this is different this year. The first $50 installment is due the first day of camp. So that $50 installment is the first day of camp.
Which
Bring
is
a $50
July
check.
19th.
There you go. Bring a $50 check in with you.
And like he said with that earlier, as much as possible, ideally, the 150. But again, communication is key, especially this year, there's been a lot of stuff going on. And if $150 lump sum is not going to work for you, let us know. We will certainly work with you and do the best we can to make it something that's feasible at whatever schedule, whatever plan, whatever works, and do what's needed to make it effective.
Having said that, if you know and you just want to get it done and over with, we'll start taking checks tomorrow. So if you just want to get going on it, that's fine too. If you want to lump sum the whole thing tomorrow, that's fine with me too, whatever. Yes?
Can we not use a check, like do you do PayPal or?
We cannot take, because we are not a separate 501c3, and the school doesn't have a PayPal or Venmo or Cash App or
Or a
anything like
credit
that.
card account.
We have to literally do checks, which sucks.
cash.
Or cash. Checks preferred, obviously, that way we can track things, right? Cashier's checks are fine, money orders are fine. But we're just not allowed to do it. I've been complaining about that for a long time too, but that's an Indiana State Board of Accounts thing, and that gets into all kinds of messy stuff that I don't really understand. But the answer has always been no, we cannot, and I'm sorry for that.
Maybe someday we'll get with the times.
Yeah, that would be amazing. If you could just Venmo us, oh my gosh, my life would be so much simpler. There'd be so much less paperwork for me to do. But it doesn't work that way.
And again, since we're not 501c3, some of the, various buildings and stuff, some of the PTO groups or booster groups and things who are 501c3 nonprofit we are not 501c3, so we cannot.
Other questions? So, the next step on the band website after tonight, I will place the form, and if you've got your emails that you had seen that has the previous information on it, I will make sure that the link to sign up for marching band is prominently displayed on the band website, or you can use the link in the email. And the next step is to sign up. The signups are due by Friday, the 21st, and that's it. Once you're signed up, you're in marching band. You're a part of it.
And once you're signed up, then your email will have the contact emails through that sign-up form. So all communication will be, official communication regarding marching band stuff will be sent that way. So you won't have to be trying to figure out, what school announcements do I have to look at, and was there an email, was there not? It will all be sent directly based on whatever contact information, emails particularly, that you put into that sign-up form. So whoever you want to get that information, please make sure their emails are there.
Yes.
May not be able to answer this question. It's a bit controversial.
It's okay.
With COVID, you foresee there being requirements so their students are gonna have to be vaccinated or just
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be very clear, I am just a teacher. So I represent nothing in terms of policy.
We will have to follow whatever the school board policy sets. So if they make a decision, or the state at whatever level makes any decision regarding anything of that, it will be whatever that is.
I will not do anything additional to that because, like I said, I'm just a teacher. And I would not feel comfortable or safe to do that. So whatever the policy set by the board and Indiana is, that's what we'll go with.
Is that something that, they're discussing right now?
I couldn't tell you. I see the board more often than most people, and I have no idea. Yes. Yep.
Not so much what happens at the CK, we sign up, something changes,
Mm-hmm.
they don't wanna do it.
Right. I would need to know as soon as possible. And the reason why is we're about to invest a lot of money into their being there. And this is, I guess the normal spiel that I give here is that band isn't like a sport in that there's no bench. It's every kid, every time, every day. If
And
a kid,
everybody has a unique and
Yes.
individual spot and role to play. And when he was talking about the budget earlier, and the fact that a portion of our budget goes to paying for our drill to be written, the drill is the movement, and someone is designing the dots. They're designing the spots that make the pictures that we make together. And each person that signs up as of Friday is going to have a dot. You know, so if a dot doesn't show up, that means our picture now has a hole in it. And we have to find a way to somehow adjust for that,
So
to the benefit of the rest of the group.
And this is the great thing about marching band is because it's every kid, every time, every day, no bench, no JV, no nothing. If they're not there, it's a big problem. If they say they were going to be there and then they're not there, it's an even bigger problem. Because now we've actually invested money into their not being there.
I don't foresee that happening.
Sure, I understand.
But it's a great question.
It's a hugely important question.
Yes.
And a part of the reason why this activity is so different is because it's every kid, every time.
And you also get the huge benefits that go with that, that every student learns that they really have an important contribution to the whole, and that, you know, their presence is known and their presence is important, and that they do have a meaningful role to play within the group.
A first-year kid and a senior have the same importance.
Correct.
I'm an alumni, so I got it.
I got you.
Yeah.
Now, having said all those things happen, right? And like reality is reality, and I get that. So the communication is the most important thing here, because realistically, the drill will probably be written sometime in late June, just because of the way schedules with this kind of work. So if it's before then, it's not a huge deal. If it's after then, it's a really big deal. And
Again, you've met her.
sure, I know. But that's just for the general audience. Any other questions? Yes?
What's the youngest you all age for guard?
So, well, not just for guard, for everybody. This year especially. Traditionally, I don't like to take, I like to take incoming freshmen and occasionally incoming 8th graders. Rare occasion, incoming 7th graders. This year, come on. And the reason why is that, like, we've had such a horrible year, and a lot of kids really need to be here, and a lot of kids need to be together, and they need an activity like this. And it's hard for me to say no.
If, generally speaking, incoming students are going to be 8th grade and up, a definite. If they're going to be in 7th grade, if they're going to be in 7th grade, then, you know, let us know. We can talk about it and really kind of talk through, because there are, especially, you know, as an instrumentalist, they just haven't had enough experience.
Right.
In guard, there are some other things to kind of consider and just be aware of. So if they're younger than coming into 8th grade, then again, that's a discussion that needs to be had. So not that it's not possible, but it can be.
Any other virtual folks got questions?
Do you guys play Stevens or Burton?
Wait, say that again, sorry?
For the 4-mallet grip on the under, play Stevens or Burton?
You're gonna drop some technical percussion tech questions at me here. So
So the answer to that is, I'll get myself on the camera here. I don't know. Hi, I'm Mrs. Jotham. It's nice to meet you. Is you win and you can play mallets.
yeah, seriously. So traditionally speaking, we teach Burton for 4-mallet stuff, but you know, if you can play it, you're gonna be all right, bud. You're gonna be just fine. If you're throwing terminology like that
If
around,
you know
you'll be
the
fine.
difference,
Yeah, if you know the difference, you don't have anything to worry about.
bring it on.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, thank you very much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. If you do have any other questions after the fact, feel free to email me, asmith@scsc.school, the most fake-sounding email address ever. You've probably gotten a dozen emails from me already. My phone number is listed on the bottom of those emails as well. Feel free to call me. Don't text me, please.
If you don't know him and you forget, you can always email me too.
Yeah. Don't.
Or both of us, or
Facebook
whatever.
message, I will not respond to a Facebook message. You can see the stuff on Facebook. It's a great resource. Email me. Please just email me. That's the easiest way to go. So thank you for coming. And if you have any other questions, get a hold of me. Bye. Have a great night. Virtual folks, thanks for being here. I appreciate you all. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, neighbor. Let's talk, neighbor. I already really have a really numbing moment here.
Okay.